Hello, annyeonghaseyo, goeiedag. My name is Samo. I'm the CEO of Cryptopia and I welcome you to CryptopiaCast. Here we discover the latest trends in crypto space and the people behind them. By the way, if you do not know Cryptopia, we are an upcoming blockchain game that stands out by design choices. We are free to earn, so no need for an NFT or an investment. We are 100% decentralized and most of all, fun to play. Are you ready to dive into the wonderful world of crypto, NFTs, and games? Then please join me. In this episode, I talk with Nicolle Lafosse. She's a lawyer specialized in Web3, and that means everything Web3. NFTs, DAOs, securities. Nicolle knows about the legal issues. She really likes to solve legal puzzles, especially if something hasn't been solved before. She wants to be the one who can do it. In our interview, we spoke about in-game tokens being a security, IP over NFTs, what happens when a game is changing the rules around NFTs, you are screwed, and how a DAO is still responsible for when things go south. Also, we touch upon the terms and conditions, and please always read them. They are boring as hell, I know, and maybe we can make it a bit more fun to go through these things. Like, afterwards we can quiz you, and if you pass the quiz, you get some tokens. Maybe it helps. Anyway, it was a very insightful interview. I learned a lot. I learned specifically what I don't know yet, so work to do. And on top of that, it was a great fun to talk with her. So please make sure you watch this episode of CryptopiaCast. You don't want to miss this one. Enjoy! So here we are with the guest of today, Nicolle Lafosse. And the first question we always ask is, who is Nicolle Lafosse?
Hi, thank you for having me today. It is my honor to be here. So, Nicolle Lafosse, in a nutshell, I would say I am a crypto attorney. I love dealing with the grayest of the grayest and when it comes to legal aspects on Web3, cryptocurrency, NFTs, DAOs, DeFi's, you name it. I love when you have a legal issue that seems to have no solution. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of resolving things that someone else hasn't resolved yet. So, navigating in an ecosystem that has no precedent, no legal precedent, that the law is not clear, it's really something that fascinates me and it kind of fuels my fire, It's I haven't been happier being an attorney than I am now. Having my own practice as a crypto attorney allows me to not just navigate the strangest waters that we've ever seen in the legal aspect, but also I'm dealing with clients who are very, very smart individuals, who are creators, who are disruptors, and who are people who think absolutely outside the box. So over here, when we're dealing with Web3 and blockchain technology, there's just no box.
Yeah.
We deleted the box completely and we're just navigating, in a disruptive way. But disruption is a word that sometimes it has a negative connotation. But in this case, disruption is a positive one because we're disrupting the economy so that we can all grow faster and to a point where we don't have bureaucracy stopping us. We don't have as much, like, how can I put it? Like steps to follow. The steps are shorter, but because they're shorter doesn't mean you are outside of the legal regulations. You're still subject to a specific law, a specific jurisdiction. You don't have to deal with a bureaucracy as in a traditional market. And you also have blockchain technology to make processes more efficient. So that's pretty much what I deal with on a daily basis. Help startups, individuals navigate blockchain technology, allow them to be disruptors while at the same time keep them within the legal aspects of what laws, regulations, securities, and jurisdictions they need to follow.
Yeah, wow, that's a very great answer. You already answered my second question. What is it to be, like to be a crypto attorney? And you painted a very nice picture, and I myself get excited. Like, wow, this is what I also want.
Yeah, and then we're all
Yeah,
together. Like you're growing and I am growing alongside
yeah,
because your case could very well be the precedent that we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so very exciting. So and to touch upon, about you said you work with a lot of different startups, and but you also try to keep them within the legal boundaries. And that's exactly the topic I want to touch upon today with you. So I'd like to touch upon the regulations of GameFi, so the blockchain games that have tokens, and well, are there securities or not? I'd like to talk with you about intellectual property rights over NFTs, because we talk a lot about gamers, and gamers have ownership over game items, but do they really have ownership? That's the question I want
Yeah.
to ask you. And if we have time left, your take from a legal perspective on DAOs, because DAOs is also mentioned a lot in the GameFi, in the Web3. But what is it really? Is it does it have a legal status? And if not, how can we make sure that it has? So, but first of all, I'd like to ask you. We are free to earn games, so everyone can play our game. You don't have to buy, you don't have to invest. You can just start playing and earn our token. So it's, I think, similar to a traditional game where you have in-game gold or in-game diamonds, and that's the currency of the game. But the complicating factor is that you can also invest in it. So people can also buy our token as a sort of investment, like this is going to appreciate. So that's one. And the second, the players that do not invest and that earned our token can reinvest it in our game into an NFT or another asset. And then somehow they are maybe become an investor. I read an article and it was mentioned, and I have to read it because I can't memorize it, sorry. The Responsible Financial Innovation Act and the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act. So there were two things that were mentioned in that article. I think bottom line was, okay, the SEC can maybe in the future say, okay, everything that you buy and with anticipation of increasing value, we see it as a security.
Right.
Difficult question, maybe. I just wonder if you can tell us a bit about your experience, also maybe about these two acts and what it can mean for a game.
Sure. So with securities, it's actually straightforward. It is not as complicated as people would think. And in essence, with the test that I use in house is, if it looks like a security, it walks like a security, it smells like a security, it's a security.
Okay.
Because there's no bright line rule of what is it. We have the Howey test, which
Yeah.
is a four-pronged test that has, if it's an investment for profit without the efforts, through the efforts of another, with the expectation of revenue. I'm just paraphrasing, it's not
Mm-hmm.
exactly that, but the point is that you're buying something where you see a profit to be expected in the future, but the effort is not from the person who purchased this token, to put it that way. We're talking about games, we're talking about tokens. So the person who bought this token buys it with an expectation that they can profit from it,
Mm.
but they're not doing any more effort than just putting the money and purchasing it.
Ah, okay.
So that's where the SEC comes, Securities and Exchange Commission. They're like, okay, this looks a lot like a security. We're not sure if it is a security, but because it looks like it, you need to register.
Mm.
So the solution to the big problem that everybody has is register as a security. It solves everything. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Register as a security. And the thing with being a security, a registered security, is that there's this concept of being decentralized. Being decentralized meaning you don't want to be attached to any government entity. You don't want the government to be overseeing your every step. You don't want the government to tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do it.
Yeah.
You want to be disruptors. You want to do your own thing.
Yeah.
But with this decentralization, you still have to abide by the law. You can, if you really want to be fully decentralized, that means that anybody can make a bad action against you and you won't have any recourse. You have no government to go to, you have no FBI, you have no courthouse to solve your problems. It's you and whomever the hacker is, who, good luck finding who that person is. So that's what it means to be completely decentralized, right?
Yeah.
Having nowhere to
To go to.
abide
Yeah,
by the
exactly.
law,
Yeah. Yeah.
having no resource to go for in case something bad happens. So do you really want to be decentralized 100%? Not really. Like, you can be decentralized to some extent, but at some point you need to have a regulatory body who tells you this person is doing something bad. We're going to do something about it so that it doesn't happen again. We've been seeing this within the US. There's a lot of really bad things happening, a lot of Ponzi schemes, a lot of rug pulls, fraud, hackers left and right. And there is a very strict regulation right now with tokens because we don't want corporations who are big in the market and that will create an influence into investing into something that probably is not the safest thing to invest on, where the audience has an expectation to be profited from it. Like, they're trying to protect the consumer
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
sense by saying you need to register because that way we know what you're doing and we'll let you know when something is not right because we want to protect the consumer.
yeah.
So from a
Okay.
government standpoint, that's what they're trying to do. From a Web3 perspective, it's hard to know when is it that you need to register as a security. So at this point, I would say everything that has token involvement, that has a potential profit, it's more likely to be a security.
Okay, okay. That's a very, very good answer. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think the simple thing to do is also send an email to the SEC, tell them what you're doing, say, hey, I have this game platform, this is what I'm planning to do, and I want to know if I'm stepping on the right stones.
yeah. That's also very good advice. Yeah, yeah. And I especially like what you say about, you buy a token and then you expect someone else to do the work for you, and then it appreciates, right? And in our game, you really have to. Well, that's also possible, but it's also possible for the people to, if you work for yourself, if you invest also your time and actually play the game, then you can grow. Then you can, level up as an avatar, and your
Yeah.
assets will level up, and then the value will increase. But then you have to actively play. So I see
So
there.
in that case, see, with games is a little different because you have that twist where you
Yeah,
have to earn this token value. The
exactly.
token will appreciate in value if you continue to win the games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But if
exactly.
you have a token because you bought an NFT and this token appreciates in value because of the community, then
Hmm.
how much effort is there involved?
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
another question. Like, how much effort is enough for it to be considered not a security?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, all right. Very nice direction to go into and to research further for us, and also for the listeners that are in the same boat. I pretty much sure that they're in the same boat. Thank you. So the other one, also very interesting. And the funny thing is, you say you don't want to be 100% decentralized, and I really agree with you from that perspective. Cryptopia wants to be 100% decentralized, and we
Okay.
build it as such. So our game state is fully on the blockchain, and
Hmm.
there are no centralized servers. So we have a peer-to-peer network running the networking traffic, and so there are no central servers and no central authorities. And the reason we want to do that is because we want the community to be the owner of
Hmm.
the governance around ownership. Maybe it's a bit of a stupid word, but I call it the governance of utility around
Hmm.
NFTs, because you can own an NFT, but if the game says you have an NFT but you need three more in order to play,
Yeah.
then yeah, you're screwed, right? So there is some sort of governance around those NFTs, and as long as that is in a centralized party control, they can always change the rules. And
Hmm.
my view is, if you want to invest or want to play a game or invest in a game, you have to be sure that the rules are not going to change in the near future, or at all in the future, without you as an investor or owner having a say in it. So that's why we say, okay, we want to be 100% decentralized, and also
Hmm.
be a DAO, so only the DAO can change the rules, etc., etc., etc. But then I read
So,
another nice article about the intellectual property over NFTs, and that person said, okay, you have property law and you have contract law, and in this case it is contract law that is taking care of the NFTs, so the platform is still in control. You are not the owner at all. I don't know from the legal perspective, so what's your take on this?
well, regarding ownership of the NFT, it's all in the hands of the creator. in this case.
Mm.
Whomever created the NFT, whomever is the person who calls the shots on the project, is the person who determines what intellectual property rights you will give to the public, to
Okay.
whomever is minting, to whomever is selling, buying. So sometimes you are unaware that your NFTs have intellectual property rights. And if you don't say anything, you probably are giving all the IP rights to whomever is buying them. And then they start commercializing the NFTs. Maybe they have derivatives of the NFTs, and that right, they can perfectly register their NFT and have an IP right over that NFT if you
Mm.
don't have that limitation or that clause in your smart contract. You can also limit the intellectual property. A lot of projects have done this by limiting how much can you monetize per year. Say you have a $10,000 revenue cap over a year that you can commercialize your NFT. That's as far as your IP right would go.
Mm. Mm.
But really, the IP right remains with the creator because you have this limitation that it's not really a license, because a license allows you to, well, it's similar in the sense that you can commercialize with certain parameters.
Mm.
But the difference with having this limited intellectual property versus a license is that this intellectual property, you can register it as your own for your own NFT, and you have the cap to commercialize it. But with a license, you can't register a license. A
Okay.
license is just that. It's the license. The IP, if registered, remains with the creator. So you can have also a hybrid where you have certain intellectual property rights and you also have a license to do X or Y. But that's all in the metadata of the smart contract. So say if you're buying an NFT and you want to buy this NFT because you want to make it your brand, but you're not aware that you have this intellectual property thing
Yeah.
in your NFT. And guess what? You paid a lot of money for that NFT and you can't commercialize it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Mm.
So, that's a big boo-boo if you're doing that for investment purposes, because you could always resell it, but you don't know if you're gonna resell it maybe at a profit or not, or you're
Yeah.
gonna lose
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
But you now have done this business strategy around the IP of the NFT that you don't own. What you own is the token, but you don't own the art itself.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. I understand. And if you talk about games and game assets, because well, then the game creator or publisher is then the owner, right? So that has the
Mhm.
IP, but he sells it like a ship or a sword to you, the player. What are your rights then?
So it's the same concept as the NFT. Like your rights are whatever rights the game owner or the creators decide to give.
Mm.
Some of them allow for you to buy, say, swords or skins, and some of them are cross-platform. Like if I were to shut down my game, I can use it for another game or in a
Yeah.
different platform. So it all depends on what the creator gives away.
Yeah. Yeah.
The scary part is when the creator doesn't know how much they're giving away.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some sort of scarcity, but I don't know how scarce it is.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's also a good one. But and to get back to this point, so I have a sword with a certain stats. It's a fire sword, legendary, and suddenly the game decides you cannot use it anymore, or you can only use it until you're a level 10. So they can restrict it in their game code, right?
Okay, yeah.
What happens then? Because I bought it, when I could use it everywhere and as a level max level player, and now suddenly they limit my sword to level 10. Is there somewhere I can go to? Is there some
Oh, wait, you mean from the creator standpoint or from the consumer standpoint
from the
where they
consumer,
buy
the player? So you and I, we play a game and we both have a really kick-ass gear and a nice helmet and a sword, and suddenly we cannot use it anymore because we have to buy something extra or we have to
Oh, well,
stuff like
that
that.
honestly is tough luck for that one person who bought it and didn't read what the limitations were.
Okay,
Now, this is also a double-edged sword, right? Because as a creator, you can always change the rules of the game, and that's part
exactly.
of being
Yeah,
centralized.
yeah.
you could just very well say, guess what? This sword that you bought, you no longer own it. You're now licensing it. And whenever you reach to level 10, your license expires. And for you to renew it, you have to buy something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
that's the risk that any consumer has when dealing with Web3. When it comes to gaming, when it comes to tokens, we all know there's a certain risk that is added to this market that you don't have in a traditional market. And that's why it's so profitable, because the money that you're investing has a higher risk value
Yeah.
than in a traditional market. And that's why you can also commercialize at a faster and higher rate than you would otherwise, because the risk that you're carrying with is also higher.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm not sure. Do a lot of gamers know this? So they all talk about, game item ownership, and yeah, now we're really in control. But in fact, you're still at the discretion of the game publisher, or the
Mhm.
centralized party.
Well, as long as you're disclosing it all, and this is something very nerdy to say, but it comes down to your terms and conditions.
Okay. Yeah.
Because when you're drafting that, you need to make sure that the magic, the magic stick is to disclose everything that you think may or may not happen down the road.
Mm,
Even things that you don't consider that you will be doing, but you might be doing because it could happen. All these hypothetical scenarios,
wow. Yeah.
you should put them in there. Because
Okay.
if you want to change the rules of the game, what gets you in trouble is, okay, were you shady about doing this change in the rules? Like, did you sell it thinking to make the consumer think it was this one thing, but you were always thinking about changing it down the road
Mm,
to maybe make a Ponzi scheme out of
yeah.
it?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's when you get into trouble,
Okay.
because it looks so shady how radical the rules of the game changed, that now it's starting to look like, okay, you may have built this up front, like for it to look this way, but your end goal was another one. And
Yeah.
you
Okay.
knew it
Yeah.
all along, because we can see the track record of how you've been changing the rules of the game to get to the point where you're now being an abusive player
Yeah.
within the decentralized ecosystem, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you, got you, got you. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. So it's more also about, educating people to read the terms.
Yeah, read
Mm.
the terms.
But
Everybody reads them when
it's
they're in
very
trouble.
almost no one is doing it, right?
No one is doing it,
Yeah.
and that's like, even attorneys. We hate reading terms of services. We hate reading terms and conditions. But
Yeah.
that is where the meat is. Whenever someone has a problem, I my first thing to go is, okay, what are your terms of services? What are terms and conditions?
Mm,
What's the privacy policy? Did you breach privacy? Are you dealing with sanctioned countries, which is also could be in terms of services? Like, what's your liability limitation if a hacker steals private information from a
yeah.
platform?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that is in your terms of service. That could be your game changer if you get into trouble and you have these things in place. Then you're not off the hook, but you have a stronger defense
Yeah, yeah,
than
yeah.
if you're just there playing dumb.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, yeah. Well, I read that there was some research about, the people reading the terms and condition, and the privacy policy in terms of use, and they did a sort of an experiment. Maybe you know it, but I was really surprised, in which people just clicked accept, and in there it was
Yes.
that they should give away their firstborn child to some organization.
Oh, I've read it. Yes, that is super funny. I've
Was
read it.
really
I think
great.
it's even like a law school test hypothetical that they love
Yeah,
to tease students with that.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you just gave away your firstborn child and you didn't even realize it.
I was like, oh, I was like shocked, like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did it probably 100 times over in my internet history.
Oh
So,
yeah, I think we've all done it.
do you have an idea how we can make that more sort of attractive or less boring? This whole terms and conditions, because it's very, very important, but still
Well, it is
people
very
don't want to read it.
important, but it's also not the job of the creators, developers, entrepreneurs. It's the job of an attorney. For us, this is not boring.
Yeah.
Like we feed off of reading terms of services and drafting them, and it's a strategy. It's not a boilerplate that you just copy and paste and
No, no,
switch
no.
the name of the company and that's it.
Yeah.
It's actually a strategy game that attorneys enjoy. At least I enjoy doing it
Yeah.
because it's not the typical terms of services of any other company. It's not terms of services of a retail store, which is standard. Like there's not much to it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
comes to Web3, when you're dealing with games, when you're dealing with NFTs, when you're dealing with virtual art galleries, um, I don't know, you name it, anything. It's a different twist. You have royalties, you have liabilities for hackers, you have, well, the privacy information is standard
Mm.
for the most part. But there's a lot of like tiny twist of wordings that you don't see on standard terms of services. And that's part of the strategy that the attorney builds for whomever they're drafting these terms of services.
Okay.
And people get scared because they don't know what to include or not to include. But you're just scared because this is not your area of
Yeah. Yeah.
expertise.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
okay. Like I would be scared if I'm being told, draft, make this coding for this platform,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know the platform will depend on your coding working. I'm like, what? No,
No, I'm
no,
sorry.
I
No.
can tell you it's gonna fail.
Hello world. Mm?
I want to Google how to code.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I fully agree with that. So yeah, to each his own, right? So it's an expertise and a profession, and you should hire
And
professionals if you want to do it right. But but
yeah,
but
I,
from the viewpoint of the gamer or the consumer, if I go to a game and I see I have to accept it and read it, I scroll down as fast as I can, and then I say accept. Why isn't there? Is there another way to have people read it or educate people about? Can you gamify it, for instance, or did you ever think about something?
well, I have, but it hasn't been that effective because people just don't like to read.
Yeah, I think that's the conclusion, indeed, right?
Like even those like some terms and conditions, terms of services of use, they ask you to scroll all the way down before you
Exactly.
click
Yeah.
accept.
Yeah.
It's a way of making you at least
Yeah.
skim through it, but like you just said, it you scroll as fast as you can
Exactly. Yeah.
to get to the bottom. You're like, where the hell is the accept button?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's education. When people start seeing that they're getting into trouble or they're signing up for things that they probably didn't want to sign up on the first place, they will start looking at it with a more careful look.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But it's like
maybe, yeah.
we all learn when we get into trouble.
Yeah, yeah, maybe show some real bad example or really terrible example of what happened to someone's funds, and then you can, sort of prevent
Yeah,
this if
I
you.
mean, for me, the simplest example that I could give you is if you're buying something in Web3 and you're buying it to commercialize because you have a brand that you want to build, I'm definitely reading every single terms of services that I'm signing and buying and entering into because I want to know what rights I'm really buying into.
Mm,
I
mm,
want to know what limitations I have. And but this is because I'm an attorney, so
yeah,
it's kind of like within my DNA. But for those who are listening to, if you are doing this, you should take the time to read into those terms of services because you may not be doing the wisest investment that you think you're doing. Just like you would invest in a stock in your first research,
yeah,
how the stock is doing, how the company's doing, how the board is doing. Is someone in the board being a shady player? Has someone in the board have a record of being a shady player? Maybe not now, but in the past. So in the same way, you should do it for crypto,
yeah,
for NFTs, for games, for as being an investor, you should pay attention to all of that
Yeah.
because it's just like any other business.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Very good advice. And maybe we can gamify it, so they really have to quiz them and
Oh my
give
God, I love
give tokens when they have the right answers,
that's a good idea. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. I love working with gamers because it's so much fun. Like I would have never thought as an attorney I have to deal with video games.
No.
Like
Okay.
our parents always told us that playing video games was a waste of time. You
Yep. Yep.
take a
Yep.
textbook and start reading it.
Yeah.
And now we have a full-fledged career with
That's
games.
amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
I
Me
love it.
too. I'm in the games. I'm a gamer myself. I played a lot of games. Too much time spent.
Well, too much, but good for you because now you're
Absolutely. And now, it sounds really, really weird, but the experience is really handy, If we talk
it
about
is.
the in-game decisions or gaming loops or inventory or leveling, then I know from this game and that game, this doesn't work, that works. And it's amazing.
Exactly.
It's
And you
lovely.
only know that because you're a player yourself.
Exactly. It's lovely. It's really lovely. Yeah. So, but what did you do before being a crypto lawyer? Were you like a regular
So
lawyer or?
yeah, I was a traditional lawyer.
Okay.
I worked with internet intellectual property and copyrights
Okay.
before going into crypto. I also dealt with international litigation and arbitration. So I have that experience in under my belt
Yeah.
where I had to deal with different jurisdictions, and then with those two jurisdictions manage to, there's always a treaty in between the two countries that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So in that way I can resemble how web3 works because, as for instance in your case, you're a gamer, you're dealing with a lot of jurisdictions simultaneously
Yeah.
and you have to abide by the law of every single one of those jurisdictions. And that may be very confusing to the naked eye because country A allows you to do this, but country B doesn't. And then country C says, we're not sure about it. We're like in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell do I do? I mean, it's like you're cutting my legs
Yeah.
because you're cutting half of my revenue stream by telling me I can't operate with this country. But then also there's no way I can restrict the access to this country because it's all in the blockchain.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's when you start to getting into the weeds
Yeah.
of how do I limit the access to this country and how do I know when someone is bypassing my restriction and still operating from this country that I don't want this person to
Yeah.
operate
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
it jumps back to you. You're the business owner, you're the gamer, you should have known. And that's a scary word in anything. You should have
Should have.
known.
Yeah. Should have. Yeah.
You're like, what? Like, what the hell? I'm not an attorney. How should have I known if someone bypassed my, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But these are things that I deal on a daily basis, and for me, it's fascinating. I'm not happy about people getting into trouble,
No.
but those troubles are what's allowing me to understand the ecosystem better and allows me to better assess you who's into this trouble right now
Mm,
and
mm.
whomever else who comes down the
Yeah.
road
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because likely there's going to be someone else who's having the same issue.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely not unique to one case or one person or no,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah. Wow.
So that and tied up to, the intellectual property experience that I have, those two have been really ideal
Yeah.
for, growing my career as a crypto attorney.
Wow. Wow. And how did you get into crypto? Did you start yourself, like a small investor or?
Well, it was my older brother who
Okay.
introduced me to it. I am an abstract painter, but traditional painter, canvas type of painter.
Okay.
And my brother told me like, "Hey, have you heard of this NFTs?" I'm like, "No,
Ah,
what is
okay.
it?" You could do your paintings into an NFT and you can sell them. I'm like, "Okay, I'm listening. How does that work?" And he showed me this like little red apple with a green leaf. It was going for $500. I'm like, why would someone pay that? That looks like I could do it on paint. Like it didn't even have like a 2D or a 3D or a happy face, nothing. It's like red, green, plain colors. And then I started researching about, okay, what's the value behind it? Why would someone pay this?
Yeah.
I
Ah.
could do it. Can anyone pay me $500? Like it takes me like 5 minutes.
I can make thousands of them, please.
Exactly. I can
Sell
make a
it.
selection, whatever color you want.
Yeah.
I started. He then introduced me into CryptoKitties,
Mm.
into Bored Apes. I started seeing how much money people pay
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
I saw the punks also, and I said, okay, let me try doing my own NFT. I bought
Ah.
an iPad just to create my own NFT. I went into Procreate. I started learning about the layers, how to do the moves, how to
Oh,
make the shapes
wow.
move and all stuff. However, I realized very soon that it was not as easy as doing it in a normal canvas. I'm like, shit, this is taking me so long to do. Like, because I had to learn how to paint all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to have a computer with a YouTube video, how to do layers, how to delete layers,
Oh,
how to
man. Yeah.
make this, how to blend the colors. So it was just taking me too much, like
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much time. It looked like crap. Like, no, I'm sticking to what I know. So I started learning more about it. And as I kept on learning, I found there were a lot of legal loopholes in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how much money was on the line
Yeah.
and how much legal like loopholes there were. How is it that people are investing so much money and they're not realizing how exposed they
Yeah.
are
Yeah. Yeah.
liability wise? These people can get into trouble in no time, and you're investing $500,000 in one shot. And then who takes care of something going south? And I started freaking out. I'm like, what's going on here? And so I reached out to some other attorneys. I literally Googled crypto attorneys, blockchain attorneys, NFT attorneys. Like someone has to be dealing with
Yeah.
this because
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
not possible. I found like a handful of attorneys, reach out to them. I said, hey, I'm learning about this. I know that you do a little bit about
Mm.
this and you've been dealing with, do you mind just, chatting with me and talking to me? Like, what's your career like?
Yeah.
What is it that you do? Because I don't see this having legs, arms, or head anywhere. So I met with them, fascinating individuals, very smart, definitely outside of the box type of attorney. Never met anyone, any attorney who had this mindset
Wow.
of being a creator, a developer, and applying the legal knowledge to it.
Cool. Cool.
So I'm like, this looks interesting. I want to do this. So I started learning more as I kept on working as a traditional attorney in the IP world. And the more I posted stuff, videos, information, and people started reaching out to me saying, hey, you mind having a quick chat?
Mm.
I
Mm.
know you're dealing with this. So the demand started growing fast
Yeah.
and faster than I didn't even do it because I wanted to be a crypto attorney. I said, this is like something that's coming to my head and I think it's something useful for the people to know, so I just posted it. And the demand grew up so much that I took a leap of faith and I'm just like, okay, this has a high demand. Clearly there is not that many attorneys who are dealing with this, or if they are, they're not doing it full time, they're doing it like on the side.
Mm. Mm.
They have
Mm.
their own practice but they don't really deal with blockchain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I took a leap of faith. I said, I'm going to open my own practice. I
Wow.
did not work for about 3 months because I immersed myself into learning
Yeah.
about the market, learning about the behavior behind it, learning about the consumer behavior, why people did what they do, why do people invest in such a volatile market
Mm.
when
Mm.
they have a safetier way of investing. Why would someone take this volatile market and just put all their
Yeah.
savings into it? It was something that it didn't click until I understood it. So once I felt, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I opened my own practice and geez, I've grown so fast, you have no idea. I would have
Wow.
never grown as a solo practice in a traditional world if it's not because I'm in this industry.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And do you also have? Are you still alone, or do you have multiple
Well, I have
staff?
assistants. I have like
Mm.
a virtual assistant, paralegal,
Mm.
but I think this year I might need to hire someone because there's a lot of growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can imagine it will only grow.
Yeah, I can only do so much my own.
Exactly.
But no, I definitely have help because you got the marketing side, you have a lot of little, small, easy tasks, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
follow-ups, a lot of people asking questions, basic stuff that you really don't need me to be
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Very interesting. Very nice also to hear. It's like a leap of faith, and it's
Yeah,
rewarding you. So it's always good to hear these stories. So well
yeah,
done,
but
well
it was
done.
scary, super scary. I am not
Of
gonna lie
course,
to you.
if it's not scary, it's not a leap of faith, right? So it has to be
True,
scary. So also
true.
with the big risk and the big gains, right? So the similar
Yeah,
concept.
same scenario. Just like
Yeah,
anyone else
absolutely.
would invest on their crypto project, I invested my career in it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Hey, I'd like to touch upon one topic, and
Okay,
then we have to wrap it up,
sure.
and it is about the DAO. And for the listeners who don't know what a DAO is, well, it's a decentralized autonomous organization, and we want to become one as Cryptopia. So you play the game, you earn the tokens, and with these tokens, you have a voting mechanism. So based on the stake you have power to vote, just high
Hmm.
level.
Okay, yeah,
But I also read some articles that a DAO is maybe or can have some legal implications. And well, we have you in here in our podcast. So, what is
sure.
your opinion on DAOs from a legal perspective? Or maybe this is a very impossible question to answer, but please break it down then for me.
Sure. So I always like to start by asking the following, and this is why do you want to create a DAO? Some of the answers typically are because I want to be decentralized. Like, okay, cool. What are you gonna do if something goes south? Are you willing to be liable for someone that you've never met, who's probably sitting in Thailand and who's running a Ponzi scheme using your DAO without you knowing, but because you're the only one in the US is going to go after you? Are you okay with that too? That's also decentralized.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right.
So what can you do about it? I understand you want to be decentralized, but there's ways of limiting this liability exposure that you're putting yourself into without even knowing.
Hmm. All right,
Like,
interesting.
yeah, exactly. This is something that a lot of people are unaware of. And a very easy way of solving it is well, you don't have to, you're free to take it or not, but you can have a normal corporate structure and have this corporate structure own the DAO. You
Hmm.
of course now start to look not a lot less, but you start to look less decentralized than if you just have a traditional DAO. But choose your poison. Do you really want to be that exposed, or do you rather be not so decentralized to the point where you have a traditional corporate structure where you can have some recourse if something goes south, where you can limit the liability? You can say, if someone in Thailand or in the Philippines, wherever you are, right, in the world, if someone does this thing, I'm not liable because of X, Y, or Z. You put that into your corporate
Hmm.
structure. There's a limitation of how much liable will you be. Then you have voting rights, right? So who has more tokens has a stronger
Yeah.
voting right than
Yeah.
anyone who has less tokens. It's the same with the board. The more money you have on the table, the heavier your vote will be. If you own 59% of the 49% of the company versus everybody else owning 5%, obviously your voice is going to count
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with a traditional DAO, sometimes if you have a DAO, plain DAO, and something goes south, they're going to go after the person who had the higher number of tokens,
Hmm.
who had more
More
take
stake in
the
the
DAO.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Even
Ah,
if the
okay.
rest of the individuals who were 5% owners of the DAO, or not owners, but token holders of the DAO,
Mm-hmm.
and you had 49% of the tokens, then they're going to go after you. Even if you don't have 49%, but if you have a substantial number of tokens, so much so that your voice counts more than any other individual's voice,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be the downfall.
Oh, okay. So in a hypothetical situation where there is indeed 100% decentralization and something goes wrong, there's no central party where you can go to, but then they just look at, like a snapshot, so who owns what, and then they go to the biggest holders.
Exactly, which makes sense. In a traditional market, they always go after the bigger pockets.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not going to
yeah.
sue the driver of the company. They're going to sue the CEO of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, okay. Wow, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And
It got you thinking.
yeah, it got me really, really thinking. Yeah, yeah, because
How
this is
many tokens do I own?
yes, I have to go to do something.
Let me check this.
No, but it's really interesting because also a lot of players, I think, I myself wasn't aware of this, so it's more like you're in a sort of a community structure and not even
Yeah.
thinking about being liable or being responsible or being the one they can go after and being held
Hmm.
responsible because I'm just a gamer. But yeah, okay, you have a stake in the game, right? And
You
you
do.
also contribute to the voting and to the direction. And but are
Hmm.
you then responsible for if someone scams someone else? Am I then responsible as a player
Exactly.
sitting in a DAO? That
And there's a couple of lawsuits right now going on where the court is leaning towards the person who's holding the majority of the tokens
okay? Wow.
for as the responsible party.
Okay. Wow. That's really okay.
Yeah, I mean this is no longer hypothetical. This is
No,
actually happening
it
right now.
happens. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. And so you advise people to if they really want to have a DAO, well, you ask the question, so that's good. So first of all, why do you want to be a DAO? Why do you want to be decentralized, right? So
Sometimes you don't even need a DAO, like
yeah,
because you work backwards. What's your end goal? You want to be decentralized. Okay, good. But there's other ways of being decentralized that doesn't include you being liable for someone else's misfortunes.
yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
You don't really need a DAO. You open a Discord, have votings, have your 5 people who are the developers, the creators, the owners of the game, take that community advice into account. But at the end of the day, you have 5 heads that you know what they're doing because you're only 5 people. You're not 5,000 global individuals.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And things are more clean in the sense that you actually know what's going on, who's doing what, to what extent, in what jurisdiction.
Yeah, yeah, got you, got you. Interesting. Okay. Well, this is really food for thought for me
Yeah, it's a lot.
and
It's a
for our
lot,
team.
but
So
we're all learning as we go.
yeah,
Every single day, we all learn.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely true. You probably have many, many meetings with people opening their eyes, like, oh, okay.
It's funny. Sometimes I get the I when I tell people what I do, I've had a comment where like, okay, so you're a dream crusher. Like you crush everybody's dreams. You tell them
The
how it's
party
not gonna
pooper.
work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, not quite. I tell them how to redirect their dreams so that it doesn't
Exactly.
crash.
You're a nightmare preventer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I'm definitely telling you how bad your nightmare will look.
yeah, yeah,
And then you tell me whether you want to go for it because it may or may not happen.
yeah,
I have no crystal ball. I am definitely not the smartest individual you've ever met, but I can tell you what I believe will go wrong so that you can take preventative measures and limit your liability.
yeah, yeah. Very important, very important. So very good. Well, too bad you don't have a crystal ball because I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you the question, and this will be the last question. I'm sorry, listeners and viewers. This is very interesting, but we have to. Otherwise, it's too long for the podcast. Um, yeah, the future. What do you expect for the future?
Okay, that's a good one. Um, I am very enthusiastic about this year, even more than last year. I feel like last year was a year where there was a lot of misfortune when it came to the market in Web3. Doesn't matter in what area, maybe games, maybe NFTs, art, galleries, um, whatever market you're dealing with in Web3. There was a lot of downfalls, a lot of bad actors,
Mm-hmm.
hackers, just being hackers. And I feel this year we're all coming in stronger. This year, we all know how bad it could look, and we haven't even gotten to, to how bad it could look, but we had a taste of it.
Yeah.
And now we're like, okay, I know where what this is. I know how things could go wrong, and we're all taking that as an educational thing in applying it to our new market strategy, into implementing new ways of avoiding this mistake again, or of
Okay.
avoiding getting into, the pitfall of things that could go wrong because of some other people's, bad actions, and
Yeah.
then it just splashes me. I take the fall for something I didn't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can I avoid that? Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with so many people around the globe that you really don't know who you're negotiating with.
Yeah.
You don't know what other businesses they have on the side that may stain you for life, and it just ruin your project. So this year I feel we're coming stronger. The projects have more preparation, they're more sophisticated, there's a lot more given to the community, more, how can I put it, like if you're investing in this project, they have more sophisticated ways of rewarding either the user of the game, the player, the investor, the buyer, the consumer. We're seeing a lot of in real life rewards mixed up with
Mm.
tech rewards, tokens, NFTs, and we're seeing this mix of real life with virtual reality.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it's just, for me, it's fascinating because we never seen this before. We never seen it so connected. We either had virtual reality or in real life,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
we're just starting to see how these two are merging to create a market space that is more profitable for everyone, and it's more attractive to the consumer.
Nice, really nice, and yeah, I fully agree with you that for once it seems that we are learning from the mistakes or the bad actors and the bad circumstances, and yeah, I do believe that we are on the right track and people are indeed learning and are improving and are
Mhm.
designing better. So I think your crystal ball is pretty accurate. Well, I hope yes. So, and well, this brings us to the end of this podcast. So, Nicole, thank you very much. I found it very entertaining and also very nice to talk with you and also very informative. Thank you very much. Also, the viewers, I think, and the listeners, I think they learned a lot. And how can we contact you?
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn.
All
I
right.
also have Twitter at Black Swan. I had just started a YouTube page. It
Okay.
has a couple of videos, so you can check
Nice.
them out.
Nice. Okay.
And I'm also on TikTok as,
Oh, okay.
I think, Crypto Lawyer. Yeah,
All right, cool. I'll make sure that all these details are in the show notes. And well, thank you very much again. And
my pleasure.
it was very, very, very nice. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.